Subversion is a weird concept. Take something that everyone knows and loves as a cliche, then flip it on its head. That is, until that joke is done so much that subverting that cliche becomes a cliche in itself. So the only way to subvert expectations now is by going back to the original form. Hypothetically speaking, and totally not relevant to anything I'm talking about today, let's say slimes are known for being weak and pathetic low-level monsters. So to subvert that, you can just turn them into boss-level enemies like in Konosuba, a show that is widely considered the ultimate subversion of Isekai anime out there. So when that time I got reincarnated as a slime, God, that title just does not fit on my screen. Like, seriously, I get it's a bit of a meme to have overly long light novel titles, but it makes me angry when I can't make it aesthetically pleasing on my own screen. Fuck it. So when that so-called slime anime first aired, I assumed it would be an Overlord-like subversion of Isekai anime, which, may I say, is not something we've seen yet. The show's main character is a generic slime with God mode enabled, and it looked like it was going to be a strange comedy with subversions at every corner. And although there are some, for instance the tsundere dragon, the show doesn't heavily rely off of these subversions. Instead, the show is more or less your classic isekai. The catch here is that instead of watching a metaphorical amorphous blob, you're just watching a physical one. The show is your classic power fantasy starring a slime that can steal anyone's abilities and can seemingly create his own out of thin air. So why the hell am I talking about this anime then? Because I'm isekai trash. Because despite all of this, the show is actually incredibly fun to watch. With Goblin Slayer coming out this season as well, it's nice to see a show that is quite literally the anti-Goblin Slayer. But other than that, the show does seem to do some things quite differently from most isekai anime, and so I figured I'd highlight a few of them. First, starting off with, of course, subversions. So the first part of this anime is basically one giant subversion. Our main character is reincarnated as a slime with some incredible powers. Oh yeah, and this is a weird sort of isekai where the protagonist actually dies in the real world versus getting teleported, so there's no get back to our own world plotline. Basically, the show follows Rimuru. I think I'm saying that right, probably not. As he befriends a dragon and somehow absorbs him / stores him like an item and wanders the world. The show does a good job of knowing when to subvert our expectations and when not to. It's actually pretty simple, here's their formula. Does subverting our expectations make for a more enjoyable watching experience than watching what's not a subversion? If so, then subvert. A boring fight with goblins, or the goblins bow and fear him as a god? Cool and awesome unified dwarven city, or something to subvert that and have them not go or get into the city? Hot elves working at a hostess bar or not? I've honestly never noticed a show that actively does this. Usually the show is all about subverting every possible expectation simply for a quick and easy joke, or is simply true to form in as many ways as possible. Slime quickly understands that it's beneficial to subvert choice situations to make the narrative more fun, rather than just subverting everything imaginable. It's great to see these warm-hearted dwarves showing camaraderie and respect, but it's understandably boring to see just a bunch of generic goblins. So they are subverted and spiced up to be more fun and interesting. Another thing I want to take note of for this show is its surprisingly relaxed approach to the narrative. Most isekai I know take things pretty quickly, dropping the characters in the middle of the fray as fast as possible and giving them some impossible mission. Slime doesn't. Instead, the show intentionally takes its time with each episode and never holds the world-ending threat, or goal, over you. Now, don't take this statement the wrong way. Slime is by no means a boring show. Instead of focusing on taking over a kingdom or the world, our main character focuses his powers on building a sustainable village for the goblins. And it's that kind of scaling back that really makes a difference. It's easy to understand why someone would travel to another kingdom and borrow hundreds of artisans to assist with their new kingdom. but it's really hard to actually comprehend the impact on the society. In Slime, they make it much more digestible. Instead of hundreds or thousands of nameless characters, it's 3 dwarves with names and personalities, and the results are much more clear. It's easy to see the evolution of the village because we know how small it was, and we get to see it grow with the show. This is despite Rimuru being basically a god, because at the end of the day, his goal is peace. And instead of doing it through some cheating methods like abusing his powers, he only uses his strength to kickstart their society. I think the show even further backs me up on this when Rimuru cheats to create a bunch of copies of the sword so he could help out the dwarves. Not only does this not help them out in the long run, later in the anime it's clear that the dwarves rather him not do this. It's admittedly a bit offhanded, but the context makes it clear. Slime is by far my favorite isekai of this season. Sorry, Goblin Slayer. The show's smart use of subversions along with the cast of incredibly zany and likable characters just fills the show with so much color. Not to mention, the relaxed pacing along with the sense of scale helps make all the characters feel tight-knit. And although there hasn't been any crazy fights to the death or demon lords to take down, Rimuru still feels like a hero. Almost as much of a hero as Tamura. Let's be real, the show's greatest hero. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. If you like it, maybe consider subscribing. Yeah, this week I didn't have a lockdown video planned, but I had so many requests for me to cover Slime that I figured I'd go ahead and do it since I really do like this show a ton. Either way, a huge thank you to all my patrons. You guys are my heroes. Speaking of which, if you're interested in seeing how I edit, chatting with me, or simply supporting the channel, I run a $1 a month Patreon to make that as easy as possible. Make sure you guys share, like, comment, and subscribe. This is Manime Matt. Make sure you guys say, man, go watch that goddamned anime.